Welcome to Her Chapter Begins. This story is a tale of terrible decisions made with complete conviction. If you find yourself wondering, girl, what are you doing? Same, honestly. But sometimes the scariest thing isn't falling for the wrong person. It's playing it safe your whole life and never falling at all. This one's for everyone who's ever wanted to stop being careful and just leap.
Naomi Thompson was staring at spreadsheets when she first saw him. Not in person, through her office window, 17 floors up. A man stepping out of a black Mercedes on the street below, flanked by two others in dark suits. Even from this distance, even through the glass and rain, there was something about the way he moved. Controlled. Deliberate. Dangerous. She watched him disappear into the building and forced herself to get back to work. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, she saw him twice more. Once in the lobby, his presence parting the crowd like a stone hitting water. Once in the reflection of the elevator doors as she stepped out on 17 and he continued up to floors she didn't have access to. Each time, her brain cataloged details, expensive suits, careful distance maintained by others, the deference that suggested either respect or fear. Most likely both. The building had changed ownership 6 months ago. Some Korean investment group, her boss had mentioned in passing. The transition had been seamless. A little too seamless. Better maintenance, tighter security, and those men in dark suits who occasionally appeared in the lobby with the kind of presence that made her on edge. Naomi had learned very early in her career that when the books looked too clean, there was usually something dirty hidden underneath. But this was before Karen's ambush over mimosas. "You're 29, and you haven't been on a date in 8 months, her friend announced, waving her glass with the confidence of someone 3 drinks in. "I'm setting you up." "Absolutely not. His name is Dae-jung. He's successful, sophisticated, and my cousin's friend says he's gorgeous. You're going." Naomi thought about saying no. And she probably should have trusted those instincts. The ones that screamed this was a terrible idea. She should have remembered that she was careful, cautious Naomi Thompson who never took risks she hadn't calculated. But she was also lonely Naomi Thompson, who went home to an empty apartment every night and wondered if playing it safe had cost her every ounce of excitement in this life. One date, she heard herself say, "But if he's boring, you owe me." Karen's smile was ecstatic. "Deal. Though I don't think boring is going to be your problem." Looking back, Naomi recognized that moment as the last time her life made sense. The last time she knew exactly who she was and what she stood for. Everything after that moment was beautiful chaos. Naomi arrived at Constellation, which was an upscale restaurant in Belltown, at exactly 7:30. She'd chosen a black dress that struck the balance between elegant and approachable, her hair pulled back in a sleek bun that showed off the curve of her neck and the feminine line of her clavicle. The hostess led her to a private booth near the back that was partially obscured by frosted glass panels. Naomi slid into the leather seat, her heart racing and her stomach turning as she felt sick with nerves. And then he appeared. Tall. Impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that definitely cost more than her rent. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. Naomi's breath was stuck in her throat, not just because he was devastatingly handsome, but because she knew that face. She'd seen him before. Multiple times over the past few weeks. Dae-jung Kim. The man who owned her office building. And he was looking at her like he already knew everything about her. "Naomi Thompson," Dae-jung said, his voice smooth and measured as he slid into the seat across from her. "You're even more beautiful than Karen described." Naomi's throat went dry. "You're Dae-jung." "I am." A slight smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. "You seem surprised." "I am." She wouldn't lie. Couldn't. Not with those eyes reading her every micro-expression. "I didn't expect my blind date to be you." "And who am I exactly?" The question was casual, but she heard the edge beneath it. "A test." Naomi picked up her water glass, buying herself a moment. Every instinct screamed at her to make an excuse and leave. There was something about him, the controlled way he moved, the weight of his presence, that whispered danger. But another part of her, the part that had survived growing up in Oakland, that had clawed her way through college and grad school, that refused to be intimidated, lifted her chin and met his gaze directly. "You own the building where I work," she said evenly. "Among other properties in the city, I hear. You're successful, private, and people are either very loyal to you or very afraid." Dae-jung's smile widened, genuine amusement lighting his features. "Perceptive. I'd expect nothing less from someone in your profession. You know what I do. I make it my business to know things, Naomi." He leaned back, utterly relaxed in a way that suggested coiled power. "When Karen mentioned she wanted to set me up with her brilliant friend, I was curious. When she told me your name, I was intrigued. And when I realized you were the woman who works on the 17th floor, who stays late on Tuesday nights, who always takes the same elevator at 8:47 every morning. You've been watching me." Her heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. "I notice things in my buildings. It's how I protect my investments." He paused, something unreadable flickering across his face. "But yes, I've noticed you." The waiter appeared with perfect timing, breaking the tension. They ordered. Naomi barely registered what she asked for, and then they were alone again. "I should leave," Naomi said, even as she made no move to stand. "You should," Dae-jung agreed. "But you won't." "Why do you say that?" "Because you're curious. Because beneath that careful professionalism, you're someone who doesn't run from things that frighten you." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "And because you feel it too." "Feel what?" "This." He gestured between them, the simple movement somehow charged. "Whatever this is." Naomi wanted to deny it. Nearly denied it. But the truth was, from the moment he'd sat down, something had shifted in her chest. Recognition, maybe. Or inevitability. "This is crazy," she said. "Yes. You're dangerous." "Very." No denial. Just acknowledgement. "I don't date dangerous men." "You don't date at all, from what I understand." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Her eyes narrowed instead. "I work in forensic accounting. I spend my days uncovering financial crimes." "I'm aware." Dae-jung's expression didn't change. "Does that bother you?" "Which part?" "That you're probably involved in activities I'd be obligated to report? Or that I'm still sitting here despite that?" "Both." Naomi laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "You're honest, at least." "I wasn't expecting that." "I won't lie to you, Naomi. Not about who I am or what I do." His eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. "My world is complicated. Dangerous, yes. But I operate by a code. I protect what's mine. I honor my word. And I don't involve innocent people in my business. Unless they work in your building. You're a tenant, not involved in my enterprises. Your firm pays rent. That's where it ends." He paused. "Unless you want it to be more." "More." She couldn't quite hide her disbelief. "We just met. Did we? Or have we been circling each other for weeks, waiting for an excuse to collide?" The waiter returned with their first course. Naomi stared at the beautifully plated food, her appetite completely gone, replaced by a churning mix of fear and fascination. "I saw you," she admitted quietly, once they were alone again. "In the lobby. I remember thinking you looked like someone who could end someone's life with a phone call." "I am," Dae-jung said simply. "Does that terrify you?" "Yes." "Good. Fear will keep you safe." He picked up his fork, elegant and precise. "But it won't keep you away, will it?" Naomi hated that he was right. Everything logical in her screamed to run. But she'd spent her whole life playing it safe, coloring within the lines, being the good girl who followed the rules. And where had it gotten her? Alone in an overpriced apartment, working 80-hour weeks, with nothing to show for it but a 401k and chronic stress. "Tell me something real," she said suddenly. "Not the sanitized version. Something true." Dae-jung set down his fork, studying her. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I came to Seattle 13 years ago with nothing but connections and ambition. Built everything from the ground up. Made choices I can't undo, formed alliances I can't break. Created an empire that requires constant maintenance and careful balance. He paused, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. And in all that time, I've never once sat across from someone and wanted to forget about business. Until tonight. Naomi's breath caught. Smooth talker. It's the truth. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she felt the heat of his skin. I have everything a man could want. Power, wealth, respect, or fear, which serves the same purpose. But I've never had someone look at me the way you do. How do I look at you? Like you see me. Not what I've built or what I represent. Me. Naomi pulled her hand back, needing the distance. I don't know you. Then let me take you somewhere after dinner. Somewhere we can talk without. He glanced around the restaurant. An audience. That sounds like a terrible idea. It probably is. A ghost of a smile. But you're going to say yes anyway. The right thing to do is obvious. Politely finish dinner, go home, and pretend tonight never happened. Maybe even start looking for jobs in a different building, far away from Dae-jung Kim and whatever dangerous world he inhabited. But Naomi had spent 29 years being careful, being smart, being safe. 1 hour, she heard herself say. You get 1 hour to show me that this. She gestured between them. Is anything other than a disaster waiting to happen? Dae-jung's smile was slow and dangerous and breathtaking. I'll only need 30 minutes. They left Constellation an hour later, stepping into the cool Seattle night. Dae-jung's Mercedes was waiting, sleek and black, with the same impassive driver she'd glimpsed from her office window. Naomi hesitated at the curb. This was the moment. The point of no return. Where are you taking me? She asked. My private office. Top floor of the building. Dae-jung extended his hand. I promise you'll be safe. Your promises don't mean much to me yet. Then let me earn your trust. Against every instinct, every warning bell, every logical thought screaming in her mind, Naomi placed her hand in his and let him help her into the car. The drive took less than 10 minutes. They rode in silence, the city lights streaming past the tinted windows. Dae-jung's hand remained loosely around hers, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her skin. The simple touch sent electricity up her arm. The building was mostly empty at this hour. They took a private elevator. Not the ones Naomi used every day, but a separate one that required a key card. It opened directly into a penthouse office that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the Space Needle glittering in the distance. The decor was minimalist, but expensive, all clean lines and careful restraint. A desk that looked like a work of art. Shelves lined with books in Korean and English. And on one wall, a collection of framed photographs that seemed oddly personal for a man who projected such control. Drink? Dae-jung asked, moving to a bar cart. Water. Naomi walked to the windows, needing space. Your 30 minutes are starting. She heard him move behind her, then felt his presence at her back. Not touching, but close enough to make her aware of every breath. I'm 36 years old, he said quietly. Born in Busan. Came to America when I was 23 with connections to organizations I won't name. Worked my way up doing things I'm not proud of. Made my first million by 26. My first 10 million by 30. Built an empire that now stretches across 3 states and involves interests that range from legitimate real estate to less legitimate ventures. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked for the truth. He handed her the glass of water. And because if there's going to be anything between us, you need to know exactly who I am. Naomi turned to face him. There can't be anything between us. I spend my days uncovering financial crimes. And you? Are you going to report me? The question hung in the air between them. Was she? I don't have evidence, Naomi said carefully. Just suspicions. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes, saw the challenge there. The test. No. I'm not going to report you. Why not? Because. She stopped, frustrated with herself. I don't know. I should. but I'm not going to. You want to know what I think? Dae-jung stepped closer, his voice dropping. I think you're tired of being the good girl. Tired of following every rule, of playing it safe, of watching life happen to other people. I think you came to this dinner hoping for something, anything, to disrupt the careful life you've built. You don't know me. I know you stay late on Tuesdays because that's when you can work without interruption. I know you eat lunch alone at your desk reading because you're more comfortable with books than people. He was close enough now that she could feel his breath. I know you because I see myself in you. Someone who built walls so high they forgot what it's like to let someone in. This is insane, Naomi whispered. Yes, we barely know each other. We will. I should leave. But she didn't move. Dae-jung reached up slowly and gently cupped her face. His touch was surprisingly gentle for hands that had probably done terrible things. I'm not a good man, Naomi. I've hurt people. Made choices that keep me awake at night. Built something that exists in shadows and requires constant vigilance to maintain. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But with you, in this moment, I want to be better. People don't change. No, but they evolve. Adapt. His eyes searched hers. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm not asking you to look the other way. I'm just asking for a chance to see where this goes. It goes nowhere good. Probably. A slight smile. Are you brave enough to find out? Naomi knew this was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with Dae-jung's criminal empire and everything to do with the way her heart raced when he looked at her. But standing there, in his office overlooking a city full of people playing it safe, she made a choice. She kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, a question. But then Dae-jung's hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Naomi stepped back. This is insane. Yes, I don't do things like this. I know. I'm going to regret this. Maybe. A ghost of a smile. But not tonight. And he was right. Because as terrifying as it was, as dangerous and foolish and completely against everything she'd built her life around, Naomi couldn't bring herself to regret it. Not yet, anyway. Naomi woke squinting against morning light she'd forgotten to block. In her own bed, alone. A business card sat on her nightstand, plain white, expensive cardstock, just a phone number embossed in black. The only proof the night had been real. She picked it up, turning it over in her fingers, remembering the way Dae-jung had insisted on having his driver take her home around midnight. The way he'd walked her to her door but hadn't asked to come inside. The way he'd kissed her goodnight like he had all the time in the world. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dinner tonight? Same time, different place. I promise no surprises. Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. This was her chance to end it. To be smart. To protect herself. She typed back, "You're already a surprise I wasn't prepared for." The response came immediately. Is that a yes? Naomi looked at the business card in her hand, at the sunlight painting her bedroom gold, at the life she'd built that suddenly felt too small to contain what she was feeling. Against my better judgment, yes. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing wasn't the risk you took. It was the risk you didn't take, and the lifetime of wondering what might have been. Naomi spent the day in a state of distracted focus that her coworkers definitely noticed. She caught herself staring at spreadsheets without seeing the numbers, her mind replaying the way Dae-jung had looked at her, the weight of his hand on her neck, the dangerous promise in his voice. At 3 p.m., her phone buzzed again. We're something comfortable. We're not going to a restaurant. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then where? Trust me. 2 words that should have sent her running. Instead, Naomi found herself leaving work early, something she never did, and standing in front of her closet trying to decode what comfortable meant in Dae-jung's world. She settled on dark jeans, a silk blouse the color of burgundy, and point-toe ankle boots. Casual, but polished. The kind of outfit that could adapt to whatever he had planned. The Mercedes arrived at 7. Same driver, same expressionless face. But this time, when Naomi slid into the back seat, Dae-jung was already there. "Hi," she said, suddenly nervous in a way she hadn't been the night before. "Hi." His smile was warm, genuine. He was dressed down too, black jeans, a gray Henley that showed off the breadth of his shoulders. Somehow, he looked even more dangerous without the armor of a suit. "You look beautiful. You look different. I thought we could skip the performance tonight. Just be ourselves." He reached over, lacing his fingers through hers. The gesture was surprisingly intimate. "If that's all right with you." Naomi squeezed his hand. "Where are we going?" "My place." Her eyebrows shot up. "That's bold." "I'm not." He paused, something almost boyish flickering across his face. "Embarrassment." "I'm not presuming anything. I thought I'd cook for you. We could talk." Really talk, without waiters and an audience and the weight of public spaces. "You cook?" "I'm Korean." "Of course I cook." The corner of his mouth quirked. "My mother would disown me if I couldn't feed myself properly." It was the first personal detail he'd offered that felt entirely human. Not the man who commanded rooms with a look, not the dangerous businessman, just a man who learned to cook from his mother. "Okay," Naomi said. "But if this is some elaborate setup, I gave you my number. You know where I work. And Ji-hoon here." He gestured to the driver. "Would absolutely tell his wife if I did anything ungentlemanly, and then I'd never hear the end of it." From the front seat, Ji-hoon made a sound that might have been agreement. Despite herself, Naomi laughed. Dae-jung's penthouse was in a building on the waterfront, all glass and steel and money. The private elevator opened directly into his space, and Naomi stepped out into a home that was nothing like she'd expected. Yes, it was luxurious. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, high-end finishes, art that probably cost more than her annual salary. But it was also lived in. Books stacked on the coffee table, a blanket draped over the back of the couch, framed photographs of people who had to be family scattered throughout. "This is..." Naomi turned in a slow circle. "Not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "A villain's lair." Dae-jung moved toward the open kitchen, all sleek marble and professional appliances. "I spend most of my time here. It needs to feel like home." "Do you live alone?" "Yes. My work makes it complicated to share space with someone." He began pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. "But I have family who visit. My younger sister refuses to stay in hotels when she comes to town." Naomi watched him move through the kitchen with practiced ease. "What are you making?" "Galbi jam. Braised short ribs. It's comfort food." He glanced at her. "There's wine in the rack behind you. Pick whatever you like." She selected a bottle of red, found glasses in a cabinet that slid open with a whisper, and poured for both of them. Then she hopped up onto the counter beside where he was working, close enough to watch but not in the way. "Tell me about your sister," she said. Dae-jung's hands paused, just for a moment, before continuing to slice ginger. "Minaseo. She's 28, lives in Los Angeles. Works in fashion design." His voice softened. "She's the good one. The one who got out, who made something legitimate. My parents are incredibly proud of her. And you?" "They're proud of me in the way parents are when they don't ask too many questions about what their son does for a living." He added the ginger to a pot already simmering with aromatics. "They know enough. They pretend they don't. That must be hard." "It's the choice I made." He looked at her then, his expression serious. "When I came here, I had options. I could have worked my way up legitimately, slowly, probably died working 60-hour weeks for someone else's dream. Or I could use the connections I had, build something bigger, faster, stronger. I chose power over propriety. Do you regret it?" "Sometimes. Usually at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep, because I'm wondering which of my associates might decide I'm more valuable dead than alive." He said it casually, but Naomi heard the truth underneath. "But then I think about what I've built. The people I employ. The community I protect. The fact that my parents live in a house I bought them and Minaseo's design studio is funded by her brother's very questionable money. Does she know about what you do?" "Minaseo is brilliant at selective ignorance. She knows I'm in business. She knows she shouldn't ask for details. He added soy sauce and other ingredients to the pot, the smell making Naomi's mouth water. She sends me pictures of her designs and calls me when she's had a bad date. I send her money and make sure no one in LA ever gives her trouble. We have an understanding. Naomi sipped her wine, processing. You're not what I expected a mob boss to be like. What did you expect? I don't know. More theatrical? Colder? You're just a person. I'm a person who has done terrible things, Dae-jung said quietly. Don't romanticize me, Naomi. I'm dangerous because I'm willing to do what needs to be done. The fact that I also cook Korean food and worry about my sister doesn't change that. I'm not romanticizing you. I'm trying to understand you. He turned to face her fully, leaning against the counter opposite. Why? Why does it matter? You should have walked away last night. Should have blocked my number this morning. Should definitely not be in my home right now. I know. So why are you here? Naomi set down her wine glass. Honestly? I don't know. Maybe because for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that doesn't make sense on paper. Maybe because I'm tired of being the responsible one. Or maybe... She met his eyes. Maybe because when I'm with you, I feel more awake than I have in years. Dae-jung was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved toward her, stopping when he was close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Can I tell you something? Yes. I've been alone for a very long time. Not physically. I've had relationships, encounters, whatever you want to call them. But truly alone. Because no one sees past the surface. They see the power or the danger or the money. They want something from me, or they're afraid of me, or they're trying to use me. He reached up, tucking a curl that had escaped her bun behind her ear. But you look at me like I'm just a man. Complicated and flawed and dangerous, yes. But human. You are human. I forget that sometimes. Naomi slid off the counter, closing the small distance between them. How long until dinner's ready? About an hour. The meat needs to braise. Good. She took his hand. Show me the rest of your home. The parts that matter. He showed her the library first, an entire room lined with books, a reading chair by the window, the view of the water spectacular in the fading light. I don't sleep well, Dae-jung explained. I come here when it's late and I need to think about anything other than business. Naomi ran her fingers along the spines. Korean literature mixed with English classics, philosophy beside contemporary fiction, business strategy books next to poetry collections. You're a reader. My father was a literature professor. Before. He didn't elaborate on before, and Naomi didn't push. He taught me that books are where we learn to be human. Where we practice empathy for lives we'll never live. She pulled out a worn copy of The Stranger by Camus. Heavy choice. I was 17 and thought I was deep. A slight smile. But it stuck with me. The idea of living authentically, of rejecting society's expectations. Of course, I took entirely the wrong lessons from it. Which were that morality is arbitrary and power is what matters. He took the book from her, set it back on the shelf. I was young and angry and stupid. And now? Now I know morality isn't arbitrary. But I'm too far down this path to turn back. Naomi wanted to argue, to tell him it was never too late to change. But she'd meant what she said. She wasn't here to save him. She was here to understand him. He led her to his bedroom next. She'd expected something austere, cold. Instead, it was warm, soft lighting, a massive bed with charcoal gray linens, more books stacked on the nightstand. But what caught her attention was the wall of photographs. Family, clearly. A younger Dae-jung with his parents, both looking severe but proud. A little girl. Minesio, gap-toothed and grinning. Photographs that progressed through years, through moves, through changes. Minesio growing up, his parents aging, Dae-jung's face hardening even as he smiled for the camera. This is your real life, Naomi said softly. Yes. Your family. They're beautiful. They're everything. His voice was rough. Everything I do, every choice I make. It's to protect them. To give them the life they deserve. My father had 2 strokes. The medical bills would have bankrupted them. Minasio's studio space costs more per month than most people make in a year. My mother wants for nothing. He stepped beside Naomi, looking at the photographs. That's the bargain I made. My soul for their comfort. That's not. Naomi turned to him. That's not how it works. Your choices are yours. You can't put it on them. I'm not. I'm explaining why I can't walk away. She understood then. Really understood. Dae-jung wasn't a monster who happened to have human moments. He was a man who'd made impossible choices for understandable reasons, and those choices had led him somewhere he couldn't escape from. The food, she said quietly. Right. But he didn't move. Naomi? Yes. Thank you for being here. For seeing this. She reached up, cupping his face the way he'd cupped hers the night before. Thank you for showing me. He leaned down, kissing her softly. Not urgent like last night, but tender. A different kind of dangerous, the kind that made her think about futures she had no business imagining. When they broke apart, she smiled. Now feed me. You promised Korean comfort food. Demanding woman. You have no idea. His laugh was warm and real, and Naomi thought maybe, just maybe, she was in far more danger than she'd realized. They were in the kitchen when his phone rang. Dae-jung glanced at the screen. His expression shifted, something cold sliding over his features like a mask. I need to take this. He moved to the far side of the living room, his back to her. Naomi stayed at the counter, the galbi simmering forgotten. She could hear him speaking Korean, his voice low and controlled. Then it changed. Still quiet, but edged with something sharp. She couldn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. The call lasted maybe 3 minutes. When he hung up, he stood there for a moment, staring out at the city. Then he made another call. This one was shorter. English. Handle it. Tonight. A pause. I don't care how. Just make sure he understands. He ended the call. Turned back to her. His face was calm again. Almost gentle. But Naomi had heard what was underneath. Everything okay? She asked. Business. It's handled. He moved to the stove, checking the meat like nothing had happened. This is almost ready. Naomi watched him work. His hands were steady. His voice was warm again when he spoke. But she'd heard the other voice. The one that said, handle it, like he was discussing taking out trash. She thought about asking what handle it meant. Who was being handled? What understanding was being delivered and how? She didn't ask. That was the moment she understood. Really understood. Not intellectually, not theoretically, but bone deep. The man making her dinner had just ordered someone hurt. And he'd done it without his pulse even quickening. Do you want to talk about it? She heard herself say. Dae-jung looked at her. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe. Or appreciation. No. But thank you for asking. He plated the food, set it in front of her. Eat. You haven't eaten since lunch. She picked up her chopsticks. The galbi smelled incredible. She took a bite. It was perfect. They ate in silence for a while, the weight of that phone call sitting between them like a third presence at the table. Does it bother you? He asked finally. What you heard? Naomi set down her chopsticks. Yes. Should I apologize? Would you mean it? No. He met her eyes. He stole from me. Put people I care about at risk. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine. What's going to happen to him? He'll be reminded why stealing from me is a mistake. He'll live. He'll recover. But he won't forget. Dae-jung's voice was matter-of-fact. This is who I am, Naomi. This is what I do. If you can't live with that. I'm still here, aren't I? He studied her for a long moment. You are. She picked up her chopsticks again. Then stop waiting for me to run. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or something deeper. Naomi took another bite. Let the flavors sit on her tongue. Finally, I can't believe how good this is. My grandmother's recipe, Dae-jung said quietly. She made it every Sunday. It's one of my clearest childhood memories, her kitchen, the smell of this cooking, my grandfather reading the paper while she worked. Do they know? Your grandparents? About what you do? They passed before I came to America. Maybe that's for the best. He refilled her wine. They believed in honor, hard work, family. I'm not sure how they'd reconcile what I've become with the grandson they knew. You're still that grandson. Just complicated. Complicated. He smiled. Is that what we're calling it? What would you call it? Corrupted. Compromised. Condemned. He said it lightly, but she heard the weight behind the words. Stop, Naomi said firmly. I get that you've done bad things. That you exist in moral gray areas I can barely comprehend. But sitting here, sharing this meal, telling me about your grandmother, that's not corrupted. That's human. You're determined to see good in me. I'm determined to see all of you. Good, bad, and everything in between. Dae-jung was quiet for a moment, studying her. What about you? Tell me something real. Something that matters. Naomi set down her fork, considering. I grew up poor. Like, government cheese and food stamps poor. My mom worked 2 jobs to keep us in a tiny apartment in Oakland. My dad left when I was 6. I watched her break herself trying to give me a chance at something better. Is she still alive? Cancer. 5 years ago. The words still hurt. She saw me graduate college, but never saw me get my CPA. She was so proud when I got into the forensic accounting program. Said I was going to be the one who made sure people played by the rules. And now you're having dinner with someone who breaks them. Yeah. Naomi smiled sadly. She'd have something to say about that. Would she hate me? She'd be terrified of you. And then she'd probably invite you to dinner because she believed everyone deserved kindness. Naomi picked up her wine. She was better than me. I doubt that. You didn't know her. She saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. I'm more cynical. More jaded. I see the numbers behind everything, the ways people cheat and lie and steal. It's made me hard. You're not hard. You're careful. There's a difference. Is there? She looked at him. I'm careful with money, careful with people, careful with my heart. I've been careful my whole life. And it's kept me safe, sure. But it's also kept me isolated. Alone. Until Karen forced me on this date, I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a risk on anything. And now you're taking a risk on me. The worst possible risk, according to every logical part of my brain. But you're still here. Still here, she confirmed. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, and Naomi helped him clean up despite his protests. There was something intimate about washing dishes together, their hands occasionally brushing in the soapy water, the casual domesticity of it all. Can I ask you something? Naomi said as she dried a plate. Anything. Last night you could have. I mean, I kissed you first. You could have pushed for more. But you didn't. You sent me home, walked me to my door like a gentleman. Why? Dae-jung set down the pot he was scrubbing. Because I want to be intentional. Not just physical, not just a moment. I want you to choose me with clear eyes and a clear head. I want. He paused. I want to deserve you, even though I probably never will. Naomi set down the plate, turned to face him. What if I told you I don't need you to be perfect? What if I said I'm choosing you right now exactly as you are? I'd say you're making a terrible decision. Probably. She stepped closer. But it's mine to make. He pulled her toward him, and she went willingly, her damp hands landing on his chest. Naomi Thompson, you're going to completely turn my life upside down. Good. You've already flipped mine. This kiss was different from the others. Deeper. More certain. A promise being made without words, dangerous and exhilarating and absolutely inevitable. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dae-jung rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said quietly. Not for. I mean, just stay. Talk to me. Fall asleep on my couch while I bore you with stories. Okay, Naomi said. I'll stay. And she did. They ended up on his couch, Naomi curled against his side, a blanket draped over both of them. The city glittered beyond the windows, but neither of them was paying attention to the view. Dae-jung had put on music, something instrumental and atmospheric, and they talked in the way people do when the night is late and defenses are low. Tell me about your first week in Seattle, Naomi said, her fingers tracing absent patterns on his chest. It was February. Cold and wet, and I hated it. His hand moved through her hair, gentle and rhythmic. I stayed in a motel near the airport. Cheap place, paper-thin walls. I could hear everything, couples fighting, babies crying, the ice machine down the hall. Why Seattle? The organization I worked for had interests here. Needed someone to expand operations. I was ambitious, stupid, and expendable. Perfect candidate. His chest rose and fell beneath her cheek. I spent that first week meeting people I didn't trust, making promises I wasn't sure I could keep, and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. But you stayed. I stayed. Made the connections work. Built something from nothing. He paused. The first year was the hardest. I was nobody. Had to prove myself over and over. Had to do things that. He stopped. You don't have to tell me, Naomi said quietly. I want to. I want you to know who I am, what I'm capable of. His voice was steady, but she felt the tension in his body. The first time I had to hurt someone, really hurt them, I threw up afterward. Went back to that shitty motel and vomited until there was nothing left. Naomi lifted her head to look at him. His face was impassive, but his eyes were haunted. I was 23, he continued. The guy was maybe 30. He'd been skimming money, thinking no one would notice. My boss at the time said I needed to make an example. Show that I was serious. So I did. He met her gaze. I broke his hand. Every finger, methodically. While two other guys held him down and he screamed. She was quiet for a long moment. How do you live with that? She asked eventually. By telling myself it was necessary. That the violence I do prevents greater violence. That in my world, weakness gets you killed. His hand cupped her face. By building walls between who I am at work and who I am everywhere else. By pretending there's a difference. Is there? A difference? I don't know anymore. He searched her eyes. Does it matter? Does knowing what I've done change how you see me? Naomi was quiet again, thinking. It should. By every logical measure, it should send me running. But she struggled to find the words. I work in forensic accounting. I see the aftermath of financial crimes. I see families destroyed, lives ruined, all because someone decided their greed mattered more than other people's well-being. And you know what I've learned? What? That violence isn't always physical. The executives I investigate, the ones who embezzle millions, who run Ponzi schemes, who destroy pension funds, they wear nice suits and go to country clubs and never get their hands dirty. But they destroy just as many lives. Maybe more. She sat up, facing him fully. I'm not saying what you do is right. But I'm also not naive enough to think the world is divided into good people and bad people. It's more complicated than that. You're trying to rationalize being with me. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just being honest about how messy real life is. She touched his face. I see you, Dae-jung. All of you. The violence and the vulnerability. The power and the pain. And I'm choosing to be here anyway. He pulled her back down against him, holding her tightly. You're going to break my heart, Naomi Thompson. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, until Naomi's eyes grew heavy and she drifted into sleep. The last thing she was aware of was Dae-jung pressing a kiss to her forehead and pulling the blanket higher around her shoulders. They fell into a rhythm over the next 6 days, a surreal, fragile routine built on the knowledge that it couldn't last. Naomi would work late, then find Dae-jung waiting for her, leaning against his Mercedes with that slight smile that made her heart skip. They'd have dinner, sometimes at restaurants, sometimes at his place where he'd cook and she'd sit on the counter and watch. They'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. They'd end up on his couch, tangled together, kissing until she was breathless, both of them holding back from crossing the line they weren't quite ready for. And then he'd send her home, both of them wanting more but not rushing it. On Tuesday, Naomi was running late to a meeting on the 12th floor. She hit the elevator button, checking her phone, not paying attention to who else was waiting. The doors opened. She stepped in. Dae-jung was already inside. Her breath caught. He was in full business mode, dark suit, 2 associates flanking him, his expression unreadable. Their eyes met for half a second before she looked away. Professional. They had to be professional. She pressed 12. Moved to the opposite corner. Kept her eyes on the floor numbers ticking up. The elevator stopped on 8. The 2 associates got off. The doors closed. They were alone. Neither of them moved. The air felt thick. Naomi. His voice was low. Mr. Kim. She kept her eyes forward, but her heart was hammering. Are we really doing this? Doing what? Pretending we don't know each other. We're in my office building. I'm working. You're. She glanced at him. Mistake. His eyes were dark and tense. Working. I haven't stopped thinking about you since last night. Her face heated. Last night. His couch. His hands. The way he'd kissed her until she couldn't think straight before sending her home. Don't, she said. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Not here. The elevator slowed. 11th floor. Like what? He stepped closer. Like you're remembering what I taste like. I am remembering. The doors opened. A woman in a pencil skirt stepped in, nodding politely at them both. Naomi and Dae-jung moved apart. Professional distance. He checked his phone. She studied the floor numbers like they were fascinating. The silence was excruciating. 12th floor. Naomi stepped out without looking back. She made it halfway down the hall before her phone buzzed. Tonight. My place. 7 p.m. Don't make me wait. Her hands were shaking as she typed back, I have to work late. Then 8. 9, midnight. Just come. She slipped her phone into her pocket and walked into her meeting 20 minutes late, her pulse still racing. Dae-jung's sister flew in unexpectedly Wednesday morning, and he was genuinely panicked when he called Naomi. She wants to meet you, he'd said. I may have mentioned I was seeing someone. You told your sister about me? She's persistent. And observant. She knew something was different. A pause. You don't have to meet her if you're not ready. But Naomi wanted to. Wanted to see this piece of his life that was untainted by violence and moral compromise. They met at a trendy brunch place in Fremont. Minacio was petite, stylish, with the same dark eyes as her brother, but a warmer demeanor. She looked Naomi over with frank assessment, then smiled. You're real, she said in lightly accented English. I was starting to think he was making you up. Why would he make me up? Because my brother doesn't date. He has. She waved a hand. Encounters. Arrangements. But he doesn't bring women to meet his sister. She turned to Dae-jung, switching to Korean and saying something that made him look uncomfortable. English, Min, he said. Don't be rude. I told him you're too pretty for him, and he better not mess this up. Minacio grinned at Naomi. He's blushing. I didn't think he could still do that. The brunch was surreal. Minacio talked about fashion and Los Angeles and her latest designs. She asked Naomi about her work with genuine interest, not even blinking when Naomi explained forensic accounting. She told embarrassing stories about young Dae-jung, his terrible poetry phase, his brief attempt at becoming a guitarist, the time he got into a fight defending her in high school. He's always been protective, Minacio said, her expression softening. Takes care of everyone else. Never asks for help himself. I don't need. Dae-jung started. Everyone needs someone. Minacio cut him off. You just need someone brave enough to see all of you and stay anyway. She looked at Naomi. I hope you're that person. Later, after Minacio left to catch her flight back to LA, Dae-jung pulled Naomi close as they walked through the park. She liked you, he said. How can you tell? Because she didn't threaten you, which means she approves. He kissed the top of her head. She's the most important person in my life. The fact that she likes you means everything. Even though this is complicated? Especially because of that. He stopped walking, turned her to face him. My life is complicated. Dangerous. But right now, you're mine, and I'm not thinking past that. Her pulse jumped. No one had ever claimed her like that. She rose on her toes to kiss him. Thursday evening, Naomi decided to cook. It was stupid, maybe. Dae-jung had been working late all week, and she wanted to do something for him. Something normal. She'd picked up short ribs on the way over, vegetables for sides. Dae-jung knew his way around Korean flavors, but she wanted to show him what she grew up with. Proper soul food, the kind her mom made on Sundays. Rich, layered, nothing rushed. The short ribs were in the oven, filling the kitchen with the smell of wine and thyme, when she realized she needed a dish towel. The one on the counter was covered in flour. She opened the drawer nearest the stove. Spatulas, whisks, kitchen odds and ends. Wrong drawer. Tried the next one. Takeout menus, rubber bands, a tangle of phone chargers, old mail. And underneath, a file folder. She almost closed the drawer. Almost. But the header was visible. Harbor Properties, LLC. Her hand hovered. Don't. Just find a towel and leave it. She should be basting the ribs. Making the sides. She pulled out the file. Just a glance. Just to confirm what she already suspected. The first page was a financial statement. Clean numbers, professional formatting. She turned the page. Cash transactions. Shell companies. Revenue flowing through layers designed to obscure origin. Her accountant brain cataloged it automatically. The structure, the timing, the exact technique she'd testified about in 3 separate cases. Her heart started hammering. This wasn't abstract anymore. This was evidence. Real evidence. The kind that sent people to prison. She turned another page. The property purchase. Listed price, $2.3 million. But clipped to it, a handwritten memo. Actual price, $800,000. Difference paid in cash. Explanation, renovation costs. Her hands were shaking. The oven timer started beeping. Shit. She shoved the file back in the drawer, slammed it shut. Grabbed the oven mitts. The elevator chimed. Panic flooded through her. She turned to the cutting board, to the vegetables she was meant to have prepped. And made herself look busy. Something smells good, Dae-jung called from the entry. She didn't turn around. Couldn't. Not yet. Just short ribs. My mom's recipe. She heard him moving closer. Forced herself to breathe normally. You cooked for me. His arms came around her waist from behind. I'm impressed. Don't be. It's just braising. Nothing complicated. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He kissed her neck. Still. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She turned in his arms, finally looking at him. He looked tired. Stressed. Human. Rough day? She asked. Long day. Better now. He smiled. What do you need me to do? Nothing. Just sit. I've got this. The ribs were perfect, tender, falling off the bone, the sauce rich and glossy. She plated them with the greens she'd made, brought everything to the table. They ate. He told her about a property deal that was taking longer than expected. She half listened, her mind still on that file. The file she'd read without permission. The file that proved everything she'd suspected. The file she was going to do absolutely nothing about. Dae-jung, she said suddenly. You should be more careful where you leave things. Important things. He went very still. What? I was looking for a dish towel. Found a file in your kitchen drawer instead. She met his eyes. Harbor Properties. The silence stretched. And? His voice was carefully neutral. And you're good. Really good. The layering is smart, the cash flow timing is solid. But, she paused. That renovation cost explanation? It's weak. Too round of a number. If anyone ever looks closely, that's where they'll catch you. He stared at her. You're giving me advice. I'm telling you to be more careful. She took a sip of wine. If you're going to claim $1.5 million in renovation costs, you need receipts. Fake ones if necessary. Detailed enough to survive casual scrutiny. Round numbers look manufactured. Naomi. And the shell companies need to do something. Have some legitimate activity, even minimal. Empty entities are red flags. She set down her glass. I know what I'm looking at. I know exactly what you're doing. And I'm telling you how to do it better. Why? His voice was rough. Because I care about you. Because I chose this. She reached across the table for his hand. Because if I'm all in, I'm all in. No half measures. He stood abruptly, pulled her up, kissed her hand, then kissed her hard. When he broke away, something fierce burned in his eyes. Do you understand what you just did? He asked. Yes. You just made yourself complicit. If anyone ever investigates me and finds out you knew, I know. You could lose everything. Your career, your license, your freedom. I know. She cupped his face. I know exactly what I just did. He pulled her tight against him. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most reckless. Probably both. He laughed against her hair, the sound broken. I don't deserve you. You really don't. They stood like that for a long time, holding on to each other, both knowing she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. And neither of them regretted it. The following week, things got complicated. Naomi was working late, actually working, not just staying to avoid going home, when her office door opened. A man she didn't recognize stepped in, closing the door behind him. He was Korean, 40-ish, expensive suit, cold eyes. Miss Thompson, he said, his accent thick. We need to talk. Her heart hammered. I don't believe we've met. No, but I know who you are. You're the woman my business partner has been spending his time with. He sat in the chair across from her desk, uninvited. You're also the woman who will be auditing his holdings next week. How do you know about that? The words came out sharper than she intended. I just found out this afternoon. I make it my business to know things, Miss Thompson. Especially things that could become problems. Naomi forced herself to stay calm. What do you want? To give you advice. Walk away from him. Refuse the audit, end the relationship, disappear from his life. And if I don't? Then you'll destroy him. Not intentionally, perhaps. But you'll do it anyway. His expression was impassive. Dae-jung has enemies. Many enemies. People who would love to see him fall. If they know he cares about you, they'll use you against him. And if you audit his books and find what you'll inevitably find, you'll be forced to report it. Either way, he loses. Why do you care? Because Dae-jung is my friend. My brother, in all the ways that matter. And I've watched him build himself into something formidable, something strong. But you. He shook his head. You make him vulnerable. And vulnerable men don't survive long in our business. Naomi's hands were shaking, but she kept her voice steady. Does he know you're here? No. And you won't tell him. Because if you care about him at all, you'll understand that I'm right. He stood. I'm not threatening you, Miss Thompson. I'm warning you. For both of your sakes, walk away. He left as silently as he'd come, and Naomi sat frozen at her desk, her heart racing. She didn't tell Dae-jung about the visit. Couldn't. Because part of her knew the man was right.
Main characters, if you've made it this far, you're my people. Let's make this official. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a like if you're enjoying the journey, and tell me in the comments, what was your favorite part? And a big thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel and the stories we share here. Ciao, until we meet again in the next story.